Hello, everyone. How's it going? Are we awake?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, kind of awake. We're really
Totally
excited.
awake.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk about the context of museums. Jennifer and I are the co-founders of the Seattle NFT Museum. Yes, it is a physical museum that's devoted to showing digital art in the context of NFTs. And in this space, we hope to educate, we hope to curate, we hope to focus on the art. So it's not a gallery when we're not selling art. Instead, we're putting it there for display, for the community to come together and to learn about this, which is really what museums are supposed to do. I have kind of a strange background. Can I give a little demo of my original career?
You should.
Okay. Bella siccome un angelo. Yes, okay. One time I was an opera singer, and then I got sucked into the tech universe. Had to make some money on the side, right? Anyway, I've always been inspired by the classical arts and the history behind it, and of course also contemporary art. And so as this digital space started to collide with art, it started to become just a fascinating space of exploration and almost like a new explosion of creativity and a renaissance, really. And so that's what we want to spend some time talking about today. Jennifer?
Yeah, quick introduction about myself. I actually dove into technology right away. It's always been a part of who I am, kind of the always on, thinking about what's next. When people ask me about what time period do you wish you were born in? And I'm like, right now or in the future. It's something that I just love to think about. So when NFTs kind of came in front of my face with a lot more friends becoming avid collectors, showing me different projects and artists, it was just something that I naturally gravitated toward. And I love to be able to really dive into it with the museum this past year.
Well, I guess it's my task to represent the absolute opposite of what you just described, because I come from a very old and very physical place. I'm representing the Belvedere Museum in Vienna, which is one of the leading art museums in the world and one of the oldest public museums in the world. And it's situated within a Baroque castle that is almost 300 years old, so everything is very old and very physical. And it's also home to the biggest Klimt paintings collection of the world. And among the collection, there is the famous, that's the most famous painting we have, The Kiss. You might have come across it.
Who knows The Kiss? Okay, good.
That's a lovely resonance. Maybe you have seen it on a cup or an umbrella or something. And yeah, the one and only original is situated in Vienna. And what we did around last Valentine's Day, we launched our very, very first NFT drop based on The Kiss. We have created a reproduction, a high-res image that we have divided, fractionized into 10,000 pieces. And this is something you, like everybody else, can buy as NFT right now. It's the first project that we did. So I'm very new to all of this.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Soo-Young. My government job is I'm a university instructor and software developer. I founded a fully on-chain gallery called Vismesh. And what I'm trying to do is kind of bridge a fully digital, fully on-chain gallery and bringing it into IRL exhibitions.
I want to come back to this project that the Belvedere Museum is doing. This is a very famous piece of work. How long has it been at the museum, the actual painting?
Well, it's a little bit more than 100 years because it has originally been purchased by the museum directly from Gustav Klimt. So it is there and it has always been there. And before maybe someone wants to ask, it's one of the paintings that never travels. I mean, there are paintings that we do outgoing loans, but this is one of them who never travels.
So this piece of art has been in the museum for 100 years. And now you're doing this new project. You're breaking it up into ways that people can have some connection to it. Tell us about this. Like, what's the idea behind this? Why give people this token of this famous painting?
Well, one of the saddest things about COVID for us was that the 90% of international visitors that we had before could not travel anymore. So naturally, we were looking for ways to engage, independent from the place actually, with audiences, and we found it very interesting and very useful because we had a lot of international visitors also from the US, but also from East Asia, for example China, and the major group was Korea actually, and all other places in the world. So it was one way to re-engage with all these people again. And what we were actually surprised about, we were thinking that we are approaching a totally new target group, you know, these digitals that we do not naturally understand how they or you all vibe actually. And then one surprising experience that we had was that even from our traditional audiences, there were so many people who were actually interested and wanted to buy one of these NFTs. And one of the learnings we had was that we have to give them much more support and service how to access this world. Because you know, there were many people who wanted to buy an NFT, but they didn't cross the threshold of creating a wallet.
And that's one of the most amazing things about museums. They're onboarding to new art, to new culture, to new things that we might not experience in our own communities. At the Seattle NFT Museum, we are showing, of course, artists from around the world. We're also showing Seattle artists because we want to recognize the people that are in our hometown, and this is part of what brings communities together. But we need more places like this that are focused on education for the purity of it, that want to curate for topical reasons or aesthetic reasons, and are trying to help bring this art to life. Because at the end of the day, if you don't care about the art, you probably don't care about the token. And it's amazing. In the museum, like what maybe 2/3 of the people that come in the door are like...
They don't know a single thing about NFTs. They're walking in from the cruise ship right in Pike Place Market. They wander into the museum because their grandchild or their friend told them about NFTs, but they don't know a single thing. And education has been really important for us, but I think there's a big learning curve. You can't just dive right in. I think early on, one of the questions that we got very often from NFT advocates is, like, why don't you sell your tickets as an NFT? We have daily admission. That's one of the reasons for how we support the operations.
I want to connect my Solana Pay. Come on.
But for the average person, they're not going to walk in the door if they can't even access it.
Yeah. So Young, I'm curious what this looks like. Like, how do you think about education and onboarding in these like virtual environments?
Yeah, I mean, for like educating people, I think there's a lot of onboarding that's going on in like Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. That's kind of the world that I come from. But then I'm glad that like there's IRL galleries that are doing this too, and like bringing the local community together too, because it's like one thing to do it with like just voice over Twitter Spaces, but it's amazing to do it with a local community in a physical space too.
We had a great conversation setting up this panel and just talking about what all of us are into. And one topic that really came up is talking about, you know, art versus collectibles in the context of NFTs. It's something that, you know, when someone walks into an NFT museum, they're like, okay, where are the cartoon characters? I want to see some of these things I've seen on Twitter all the time. And we're showing them, you know, maybe some fine art or generative art or you know, algorithmic art or 3D rendered art and like these other kinds of things. I'm curious how each of you think about that. Think about like, what is the context of collectibles related to art itself?
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like projects that are the most innovative, they'll mix things that come from the one-of-one world and also the generative world, too. And I've even seen, like, you know, fine artists in the one-of-one space experiment with things like doing generative work with different layers and randomization, as well as, like, introducing traits into their works, too, and creating, like, almost like project collections around them. So I think anytime there's kind of some combination or hybrid between collectibles and one-of-one art together, I think it's super smart, and people are constantly innovating, adding utility, kind of like borrowing from both the collectible collectible and fine art world to create, I think, really cool stuff. So, and it's constantly changing and just like a crazy space to be in, but it's exciting to watch at least. So, yeah.
I know you have some opinions.
I totally feel that we're going to have this discussion a little bit longer. I heard someone saying on one of the previous panels, I am going to use the U word now for utility when it comes to art. Because from my point of view, we need to make this distinction between genuine, actual NFT art that does not come with a utility. Because when we think about the traditional art market, you buy a piece of art and there is no follow-up obligation or utility or anything. So, and I totally understand that artists make this point and try to defend this point, whereas all the other abilities that we see within the NFT world usually, I think won't be successful without thinking a lot about what are the utilities that they are bringing with it.
I completely agree with you. I do think there's one aspect of utility that is really important for artists specifically. It really is the ability to be able to touch the royalties. I know that early on, artists were very excited about that opportunity, especially when they know that they're able to grow their work over time. They're able to grow their collector base. And now with NFTs, they're actually able to see the financial benefit of that, where it was really difficult before that. But I think that's the one unique aspect of utility that is really important to NFTs, and I hope the art world will adopt.
And there's always this question of like, why do I care about this token? Why do I want to own this thing? Like, why would I ever want to own an NFT, especially as a piece of fine art that, that might be a hefty investment? And we get that question constantly in the museum, and so we answer it in maybe 1,000 different ways. But it's, it comes down to like taking, you want to buy a ticket on the journey of this artist, and you want your name to be a part of this ledger. You're part of this history. You're now a part of their story, and the inclusivity that comes from that, I think, is really, really exciting, and something that we hope that the fine art community really, really embraces over time.
I agree, and I mean, I agree too, because like being able to have your address associated to a particular piece, having that like rock solid, perfect provenance on the blockchain, like anyone who owned that piece, they have a piece of it kind of forever. So I just think that's really cool. And I mean, it just blows my mind just how the blockchain's like forever, and it's storing this critical information related to art. And so it's just two completely different worlds of like super high tech crypto blockchain and then just like something more soft and subjective like art. And so it's just really interesting seeing them combined together.
Go ahead.
I just want to add that, I mean, the decision to buy a piece of art has always been a very subjective and often irrational decision. So, I mean, if someone asks you why he or she should buy this piece, you can answer right away. If you don't like to, don't.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, one thing we explore that's a little different in the Seattle NFT Museum, we are going through exhibitions every 6 weeks, which is like lightning speed. If you spend much time in the museum world, most, especially like large museums, maybe it's 6 weeks to do the transition from one show to another. So we're showing a lot of work, and we think it's important, at least at this moment, because there is so much happening, and the pace of this industry is evolving so quickly, and it allows us to, make these curations a bit more topical about like what questions do we have that we hope that artists can answer. We just had one recently as an example called the Climate Conversation, where we're showing artists who are focused on climate impact and awareness have raised money for this fact, that are also using alternative blockchains and are thinking about their sustainability and like what is the future sustainability of the blockchain. And I'll be honest, when we opened the Seattle NFT Museum, we had climate activist protesters out front in Seattle, Washington. And it was interesting because the part of the point of this space is to have that conversation. Like, we want to be able to talk about these things. And whether or not the Seattle NFT Museum exists or not, Ethereum is not going away. So maybe don't shoot the messenger and let's come in and let's have a conversation. How are we going to change? How are we going to evolve this ecosystem? Maybe not all of our hopes can be on the merge. Like, what more can we do and how can we think about that? But yeah, that's just one example of something that artists are incredibly passionate about, and you can pull together a really moving and aesthetic curation through that that speaks to the community and brings the community together to have that discussion.
And I would say, building on that as well, when we think about the curation themes, it's not just about having the conversation at the museum because of the art that we're showing at that point in time. But one important part of having the physical space is to make it be a community center. So we have weekly educational workshops where any member of the community can come and book a 2-hour slot and really teach their audiences about a specific topic. Anything from launching a new coffee-based coffee shop DAO to a traditional pottery artist now extending their business into NFT art. So it really shows a lot of diversity in terms of the different types of artists and technologists and creators that are exploring different applications of using NFTs today.
I had a question about, like, in the context of a 300-year-old museum, like, what has been the reaction to this? Like, how have, like, your supporters and collectors, how do they respond to this whole, like, explosion that's happening? And your curation staff, like, how do they think about this?
You have no idea. There was everything in it. I mean, traditionally, in Austria, the arts community is rather conservative and not the most open to innovation and new things. So it was very good for us to also have like resonance from international backgrounds from all over the world, and also the rest of the German-speaking countries were a little bit more open about it. But I think we made our way through this, and some opinions have shifted a little bit more towards neutral or even positive. And attending an event like this one here today gives us a lot of inspiration, actually, to go on.
What do you think that Gustav Klimt would think about this project?
I think he would have loved it. Seriously, there was a speaker today in the morning who talked about Mozart, and the question came up as well if Mozart would have been if he would have liked a project like this or NFTs at all. And I mean, these people were very innovative characters and opinion makers of their time, and so I guess they would have supported it by themselves.
Yeah, it brings me back to like my classical education, there's so much desire to keep things as they were, exactly as the composer did them. But these composers were living, breathing creators, just like people who are putting up a TikTok every single day, right? And they were outside the box thinkers. They were rebels. They were called misfits and names, and even shunned from society in some cases, causing depression and like so many things like that. And that's at the center of so much of humanity, and therefore so much art. And I want to see the people in the classical arts start to embrace that and think about its relationship to these stories, these real humans that made like powerful change. Yeah.
I have a tiny question to sum it up to the three of you. I mean, from my side, as coming like from outside the NFT community, what do you think will or would benefit the NFT community most, I mean, in the close future?
I'll go. I think everything that you guys are doing is exactly that. So in terms of like giving people opportunities to exhibit their work in real life, which I think is really important, and also bridging like the classical traditional art world with just this new frontier of NFTs. So I think it's really good that being part of that change and part of that Renaissance movement, I think that's really important. So, but yeah.
For me, one thing that will benefit the future of NFT art will be accessibility. Either accessibility on the education side, we've talked about the technology barriers, but just accessibility to meet and learn about new artists. I think that's something that has really opened up as well. Instead of an artist having to be the top 1%, world-renowned to be recognized for their profession, there are so many different types of artists now around the world that are able to be seen and appreciated by their collectors because of NFTs.
I would maybe say I hope that the term NFT just fades away someday, and that we're just talking about the art, and that we're focused on what these artists are creating, the technology and the utility and cryptography and all of that is a means of supporting these these powerful souls, right? And it's something that when people walk into the Seattle NFT Museum, we want them to just look at the art. Like, you don't have to step up close. You can even step back a little bit. You can be as comfortable as you want to be, come as close and think about, what does this artist do for me? What aesthetically is powerful or moving for me? And spend some time reading about the artist, learning about their practice. We oftentimes say museums are in many ways designed to slow us down from everyday life. You walk in many cases it's a familiar setting, a familiar environment. You're especially in the white cube like we've got. You sort of know what to do. Anyone knows what to do when they walk in the door. It's just take it in and let it happen at its own pace. Art, especially what we consider to be in the fine art category, it takes something of us to really enjoy it and respect it. You do have to learn. You do have to educate yourselves. If you look at generative art for the first time and you don't know the story, the code, the algorithms that were massaged into place to create this magnificent work, you will probably be a few degrees removed from really being impacted by that piece of art. And so, I would like to see continued focus on the art and the artists and their stories, making that the most powerful part of NFT art. And I would love to know from you, what advices do you have for this community and how to connect to the museums of the world, how to connect to the art world at large?
Well, it's very easy. Go to museums, go to thekiss.art. And what I think that the NFT community, connected to the arts world, really needs is education. Because people are scared of everything with Web3, and that's just one of all the opportunities. And that's why I like your educational approach so much, that you are living in your museum.
Well, come and visit us, and we'll come and visit you. 300 years next year. Go to Vienna. Cheers, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Lovely closing remarks. Thank you for listening.